The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days, and neither had the ache in Sarah Martinez's chest. She stood at the window of her cramped studio apartment, watching the Chicago streets blur into watercolor streaks of gray and amber, wondering when she'd stopped, recognizing the woman staring back at her in the reflection. Somewhere between her third double shift this week and the eviction, notice taped to her door. She'd become invisible, not just to the world, but to herself. And the cruelest part? She couldn't remember the last time anyone had called her by name. The notification on her phone buzzed for the 7th time that hour. Another bill, another reminder that she was drowning. Sarah's fingers trembled as she silenced it, her thumb hovering over her mother's contact photo. But what would she say? That the business degree had led to nothing? That she was 32 and couldn't afford groceries? That the American dream she'd chased had turned into a nightmare of student loans and survival jobs? No. Some burdens were meant to be carried alone. She grabbed her threadbare coat and headed out into the downpour. The hospital where she worked nights as a janitor waited for no one, not even those running on fumes and broken promises. As she hurried past the bus stop, she nearly collided with an elderly woman sitting on the bench, completely soaked, her thin frame shaking violently. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Sarah heard herself ask, though she was already 15 minutes late. The woman looked up, her eyes clouded with cataracts but somehow still piercing. "I've been better, dear. I've been much worse, too." Her accent carried the melody of somewhere far from here, perhaps Eastern Europe layered with decades of American life. Sarah glanced at her watch. She couldn't afford to be late again. Another write-up meant termination, and termination meant homelessness. But those eyes held her in place, as if they knew every secret she'd ever kept. "Where are you trying to go?" Sarah heard herself asking. "Mercy Heights. My daughter, she's in the ICU. They called me 2 hours. Ego." The old woman's voice cracked. "But the buses, they don't run like they used to. And I couldn't remember how to use that phone thing for a car. Mercy Heights. That was 40 minutes in the opposite direction of Sarah's work. 40 minutes that would cost her everything. "Come on," Sarah said, surprising herself. "I'll get you there." The woman's name was Elena Kowalski, and she talked the entire ride about her daughter Anna, a social worker who dedicated her life to helping refugee families resettle in Chicago. As they navigated through flooded streets in Sarah's dying Honda Civic, Elena's stories painted pictures of a woman who'd spent every moment thinking of others. Anna, who'd missed her own wedding anniversary to help a Syrian family find housing. Anna, who'd learned 6 languages, so she could speak to people in their mother tongue. Anna, who'd somehow made the world smaller and more connected with nothing but kindness and a refusal to look away. "She gets it from you," Sarah said softly as they pulled into the hospital parking lot. Elena's laugh was bitter and sweet all at once. "No, dear. I was the one who told her she was crazy, that she couldn't save everyone, that she needed to think about herself." Sometimes her voice dropped to a whisper. "I was wrong." She knew something I'm only learning now at 83, that we're not meant to be titles or possessions or achievements. We're meant to be pronouns. Dear, her, him, them. We're meant to be the words that connect stories together. Sarah walked Elena through the hospital corridors, her own shift forgotten. When they reached Anna's room, a doctor intercepted them with the expression medical. Professionals wear when they've practiced delivering bad news. "Mrs. Kowalski, I'm glad you made it. Your daughter's condition has stabilized, but she's asking for you. She's been asking for everyone, actually." He smiled sadly. "There are about 40 people in the waiting room, all here for Anna. She spent her last conscious moments making sure we called each of them." The waiting room was a United Nations of grief. Sarah saw women in hijabs sitting next to men in turbans. Families speaking Spanish, Amharic, Arabic, and languages she couldn't identify. They were all crying, praying, holding each other, and they were all there for her. For Anna, the woman who'd titled herself nothing so she could be everything to everyone who needed someone. Sarah helped Elena into Anna's room, intending to leave. But Elena's grip on her hand was surprisingly strong. "Stay," the old woman said. "She'd want to know you. She'd want to thank you." Anna Kowalski looked smaller than her legend suggested. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that beeped steadily, stubbornly keeping rhythm with a heart that had given too much. But when her eyes fluttered open and found her mother, They lit with a fierce joy that made Sarah's breath catch. "Mama," Anna whispered. "You made it." "Because of this angel," Elena said, pulling Sarah forward. "What's your name, dear?" "I just realized I never asked." Sarah Martinez." Anna's gaze shifted, focusing on Sarah with an intensity that seemed impossible for someone in her condition. "Sarah," she repeated as if tasting the name. "Thank you for bringing her to me. Thank you for being late for wherever you needed to be. How did you—" "I can see it in your eyes." The same look I used to have. "When I thought my time was more valuable than someone's need." Anna's smile was weak but genuine. "My mother told you about pronouns, didn't she? About being a her instead of a name?" Sarah nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "She got it wrong, though," Anna continued, her voice fading. "We're not meant to be just pronouns. We're meant to be both. We're meant to be the title, Sarah, Anna, Elena, so people know who we are. But we're also meant to be the her, the him, the them, so people know what we can be to each other." The connection. The story between stories. Over the next 3 hours, Sarah watched person after person enter Anna's room. A Somali teenager who Anna had helped escape gang recruitment. An Afghan widow who Anna had taught to drive so she could get to her nursing job. A Mexican family whose son Anna had mentored through college. Each one came with tears and gratitude. Each one called her by name while she called them by theirs. Each one a chapter in a life that had refused to be just one story. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her supervisor. She'd missed her entire shift. She was definitely fired. But she couldn't bring herself to care because she was watching something she'd forgotten existed. Proof that one person could matter, that kindness wasn't weakness, that giving yourself away didn't mean losing. Yourself, it meant finding yourself in everyone you'd helped become who they were meant to be. As the night deepened into early morning, Anna's breathing became more labored. The doctor returned, his expression grave. Elena held her daughter's hand while tears streamed down her weathered face. Sarah stood in the doorway, an uninvited witness to the most intimate of goodbyes, unable to look away. "Mama," Anna whispered, her voice barely audible. "Title them. All of them. Promise me. Title them." "Baby, I don't understand." Anna's eyes found Sarah's one last time. "Tell them," she struggled to say, "tell them their names matter. Tell them they matter, that they're not just a her or a him lost in the crowd. They're Sarah, they're Ahmed, they're Maria, they're someone. Title them. Help them remember who they are." Elena sobbed, understanding. I promise, my love." Anna smiled, and then she was gone. The machines screamed their protests, but the room was filled with a silence that was somehow peaceful. Sarah watched doctors and nurses work to revive her, but she knew. They all knew. Anna had given her last breath, teaching her mother the lesson she'd spent a lifetime learning. The funeral 3 days later drew over 300 people. The mayor came. Local news covered it, but Sarah barely noticed any of that. She was too busy watching Elena move through the crowd, stopping at each person, taking their hands, and saying their names. "Ahmed, thank you for coming. Maria, she loved you so much. David, she was so proud of you." Over and over, refusing to let anyone be invisible, titling them all with the dignity of recognition. When Elena reached Sarah, the old woman's eyes were red but clear. "She saved you too, didn't she?" "I think she did," Sarah admitted. "I'd forgotten who I was. I'd become just another her. Another tired person nobody sees. And now I'm Sarah Martinez, and I think I know what I'm supposed to do." 6 months later, Sarah stood in front of a small storefront in the same neighborhood where she'd met Elena. The sign above the door read, "Title Her, a place to be seen." It wasn't much, just a community center, funded by a modest inheritance. Anna had left to be distributed among everyone she'd ever helped, which they'd all agreed to pool together for this purpose. Inside, there were computers for job searches, ESL classes, resume workshops, and most importantly, a wall where every person who entered wrote their name. Not for recognition or glory, but as a reminder that they existed, that they mattered, that they were someone. Elena came every day, greeting each person who entered by name, refusing to let anyone pass through the doors without being seen. Sarah worked alongside her, having quit her hospital job to run the center full-time. They didn't pay themselves much, but Sarah found she didn't need much anymore. She had something better than money. She had purpose. She had connection. She had a name that meant something because she was using it to help others remember theirs. On the 1-year anniversary of Anna's death, Sarah stood before the packed center and looked at the wall covered in names. Hundreds of them now, each one a person who'd been seen. Each one a story still being written. "My name is Sarah Martinez," she began, her voice steady and strong. "And this is what she taught me. We spend our whole lives trying to become someone, to be titled with importance, to have our names mean something. But the real question isn't what we're called. It's what we do for others when they forget what they're called. Are we the people who walk past her sitting in the rain? Or are we the ones who stop and ask her name, who remind her that she's not just a pronoun in someone else's story, she's the title of her own?" The crowd erupted in applause, but Sarah's eyes found Elena in the front row, and the old woman mouthed 2 words: "Title them." And Sarah did, every single day, one name at a time. Because that's what love does. It sees, it stops, it asks, it remembers. It refuses to let anyone become invisible. Her name was Anna Kowalski, and her legacy was teaching the world that the most powerful thing we can do is see each other, truly. See each other and say, "You matter. You have a name. You have a story. And I'm honored to be part of it." Title her, title him, title them. Title yourself. Because we're all someone, and someone is worth stopping for.